Ibu Guru. Thank you very much, Rekha, for accepting it is a part of community services in the university to training the teachers. Currently, we focus on improvement the learning environment, emotional climate. So it is the second phase of the training that they would like to learn about how to conduct the research in learning environments in order, and it will be moderate, your session will be moderate by Ibu Susi Fitri. Please, Bu Susi Fitri, the time is yours. It's still mute.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming, Rekha, Koul, and friends and teachers. Today we are going to have some presentation from what I shall call you, Ibu Rekha.
Thank you.
Quite in Indonesia, it's quite unpolite to call you just Rekha. Ibu Rekha Koul from the Curtin University. She is associate professor in discipline learning environment, science education, and STEM education from Curtin University at Perth. And today we are going to have a presentation from her about the classroom climate, classroom emotional climate. And this instrument especially will be used in our activities in developing some improvement in our class. Please, Rekha, the time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Juli. And I won't call you because you're my friend, the dearest friend. And thank you, Ibu Susi Fitri. Thank you, everyone. I'm missing out on coming to Indonesia and especially to UNJ, which is sort of my second home now. But thank you to technology, which has kept us connected, and from time to time, I get a chance to interact with you. Before keeping in view, Juli has given me 2 hours, I thought first I will let you know what is the background, how this CEC was developed. And it's a long history, long story behind it. And then how we used it, maybe in 3 different ways here, although because CEC is a reasonably new questionnaire and I don't have pleasure of having students like Juli has, all of you, and active researchers there in Jakarta. I would personally like to use it in various ways. But yes, you are doing it, that's my win. What happened is, when I joined Science and Mathematics Education Center, it had a strong reputation of learning environment research center being around the world. Even I adopted some of the questionnaires for my own PhD study, which was WIG and QTI. But soon after I joined SMEC, I started looking at gaps. Where are the gaps that we haven't created a questionnaire? And what are the educational fields where intervention is required? And first of one, which we developed that time, was students' perception of assessment tasks. So we did that. After that, where we focused on assessments, because that was one thing which was not attended to. Then I worked on places which Juli used in her PhD study, where we looked at the environmental studies. And then the next one was engineering and technology, where again, places was a funded study, and so was engineering and technology. But as I was going through that engineering and technology study, I read some news article in which stated that we are only putting emphasis on cognitive development, cognitive achievement of students, while as, because that was the time, mental health issues around the world had started coming up, and that too in school-going children. Generally, mental health issues would start in late teenage and early 20s, but now they had started seeing mental health issues in younger children. And I thought it is an area where we should put a look into it. I reviewed literature. Strangely enough, no work, not much work was done in this area, other than one study was carried out in US under Gates Foundation, which is Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation. A researcher, psychologist named Ferguson, he had done a study. But they had not validated a questionnaire. Moving on from there, I thought, oh, this is an area of need. Why I'm telling this story, it would be very important for you as well as researchers to look at areas where there is a gap and you can fill up that gap. And gaps in your country could be different based on the local need. So my university wouldn't give me time to do research on my own. I needed funding. I wrote a grant application. It was unsuccessful. Second time, changed it to STEM research. We got good reviews, but again, it was unsuccessful. Third time, we thought of involving an international researcher with us, which was Theo Wobbels from Netherlands. And it did something, and we got the grant. And again, we moved, didn't only keep emotional research, because currently in Australia, they are funding research in STEM area. So we said we will look at emotions in the STEM learning environment. But that is not important. Although the research was done in STEM area, we can do research in any area, sciences, mathematics, arts, because emotion is emotion. Humans are humans, and humans will be humans everywhere. And now I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint where I'll go through the validation information about this questionnaire. And after that, so that you have this confidence that we can use this questionnaire with confidence. And after that, we will practically use this questionnaire, all of us together. Is that okay? Show me your thumbs.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I? Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. No, yes.
Now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I think I'll run it like, hopefully.
9-10 kakak kosongkan, kemudian di bawah ada titik-titik.
Anything for me?
No.
No.
So I'm only going to talk about the validation journey of this questionnaire. Is since we had done it in STEM classrooms, that's why I'm saying about why STEM. Because STEM's Australian government is saying that STEM skills are very important for the future. There are references saying that 80% of tomorrow's job will require STEM skills. So it's very important for us to make sure that students who are in STEM classrooms have sound emotions so that they will connect with the STEM related subjects. Also, Australia is facing huge decline in STEM related enrollments, and we have a shortage skill. So we can't get enough students doing STEM related subjects in universities. So unless we have students doing STEM related subjects in schools, which starts from primary schools and then into the high school, we can't get enough STEM related students. The other issue is gender equity in STEM careers, which is lesser women. Even today, we have only 12% females in engineering, despite lots of efforts of the government. There is a systemic, there needs a systemic change in our system so that more and more females can enter into STEM fields. So if we can get them early on into STEM related subjects, it would be good for us. Integrated STEM program in schools are proposed to develop 21st century skills, which is collaboration, resilience, that sort of, because nowadays, even United Nations sustainable goals are putting emphasis on skills instead of content. It is worthwhile to look at the STEM. And we don't know what is happening. Many females, they join STEM related courses, but somewhere in the pipeline, by the time they reach to the jobs or senior jobs, they get lost. So if possibly their emotions are not being looked after. So there were multiple reasons for us to look into this study, and lots of literature supported it. So what did we do? We looked at Ferguson's study, which was carried out in 2010, and he had used a 7 C's questionnaire. We also used Attitude to STEM from TOSRA, and these 8 dimensions. The 7 C's questionnaire had care, control, clarity, challenge, consultation, consolidation, and collaboration. But based on the feedback we got, we also added a scale of motivation in it. And of course, attitude to STEM dimension was, we wanted to look at the output as well. The study was carried out in 4 distinct stages. In first stage, the questions were drafted, they were shown to few experts in the area of learning environment, psychology, education, and so that the face validation of the questionnaire was done. After that, we had focus group interviews with students, and from year 9 and 10 in 2 different schools, again, getting feedback on the questionnaire. We had a focus group interviews, and in groups, we asked them what each dimension was about, and if those items we had put in the questionnaire needed changing, removed, added, whatever change. And So initial CEC questionnaire on emotional climate, we modified, and then again, further modified after consensus was reached. In stage 3, the questionnaire was implemented on a larger population. It was really very difficult, as Juli would know. Getting an ethics from Department of Education was mayhem for me. And then contacting schools and getting approval from parents for the children to participate in the study. But we somehow managed to get close to 700 students completing this questionnaire. And we went, did different statistical tests to establish the factor analysis, validity, discriminant validity, and predictive validity of the questionnaire. For a change, this was my first study. I had a real good research assistant. I'm personally still not very conversant with rash analysis, but she mastered the rash analysis while on this project, and unidimensionality of each of the latent variables was established. Means the analysis of this data set was quite rigorous to make sure that what we are trying to establish through this questionnaire, and this questionnaire has a good structural model. So what did we do? As I told, we changed the language. Wording for clarity was changed, and items in the Ferguson study where students in this class treat the teacher with respect, it seemed like a little distant. So what we did, we changed it to a more personal mode, like I treat teacher with respect. Firstly, it was short and very straightforward for students to understand. And at the same time, it gave it a personal touch. Stage 2, as I told you, we, instead of 7, our 8th dimension was added. And if the questionnaire increased to 64 items, I was very keen that let's keep the questionnaire as short as possible, because students' focus time spans have decreased with time. So I really wanted to keep the questionnaire as short as possible to get a good quality data back. But based on the feedback of students, we ended up with 64 items, which finally we reduced. And we had 10 questions of attitude. And in a way, we ended with 74 items. The question, the scales, as I said, was consultation, consolidation, collaboration, control, motivation, challenge, clarity, and attitude. Like what were these scales testing? Does teacher encourage them to share their thoughts or opinions? Like the question, one of the questions in this scale was, my teacher asked me questions whether I put my hand up or not. And similar way, I'm not going to read all the questions, but you will have access to the questionnaire soon. I was always intrigued by the questions in care, like the teacher cares about their learning needs and treats them with respect. The teacher makes me feel that he really cares about me, because it doesn't matter whether child learns from you or not, what child learns from you. Lifelong, recall your own school time when you were learning. You will see that how your teacher made you feel. You will be remembering that. You have learned quite a lot. You have come a long way. You don't remember the content, but you do remember the teacher. You do remember that kind gesture on teacher's face. And that's very important, what I'm trying to make, meaning here. Does teacher consult with students? Does teacher consolidate what she is talking or speaking with students? Collaborate. Do they collaborate in the class? Control. Is teacher very controlling? That sometimes is a waste of time. Is she motivating? Does she challenge students? When she gives a command, is that command clear? So those sorts of things. Moving ahead, as I said, we had sample. Here is the breakdown of the sample. We had more females than males in the sample. We had more private schools than the government schools, and students who participated in this study were from year 7 till year 10, which is high school, junior high school. We can, that's how we call them. And all the questionnaire data which collected was anonymized. None of the students could be identified after this stage. First, principal component factor analysis was done. And we also did PCA, and rotation was Kaiser normalization. And we did end up with 8 dimensions solution, as you would have seen. The 8 dimensions consolidated in 5 dimensions only. And best solution, what we again came up with, is 7 dimensions, where consultation and consolidation scales were combined. So eventually we ended up with 41 items. Out of 74, we ended up with only 41 items when we validated the questionnaire. This is the structure of confirmatory factor analysis: consolidation, collaboration, control, motivation, care, challenge, and clarity, because other two scales consolidated. Now, this is lots of references which are supporting what sort of cutoff is supported. We obtained 2.92, while as this is supporting less than 3, which it was. Here et al. Supports for RMSE less than 0.08. We had 0.07. For SRMR less than 0.8, we had less, definitely. And for CFI more than 0.9, and we had 0.94. That means a rigorous analysis was done for this questionnaire to get the right validation. And we already have even published a paper on the validation information of this questionnaire. Now, as far as reliability is concerned, you can see all the 7 scales had reliability in 0.9 and above. And we can't get any better than that. We had really high reliability. ANOVA, all ANOVA scores are statistically significant, which is the concurrent validity, saying that all scales have their own place in the questionnaire. Each scale is measuring a different variable in the questionnaire. Predictive validity, like is mean correlation, is all statistically significant, and beta scores are only significant for collaboration, motivation, challenge, and clarity. Moving ahead, rationalisis. To tell you honestly, I don't, as I told you earlier, I don't have much understanding of rationalisis, but what I'm being told is that we have the best model fit through these numbers. And as you would say, all the scales of our questionnaire ended up with 6 items other than control. The conclusion, STEM, classroom, emotional climate, it filled an important gap because we didn't have a tool to measure emotions in the classroom. In this questionnaire, we focused on integrated STEM, but that is not a thumb rule. I would love you to use it in your own environment. It could be keeping in view currently you are working in online mode, what sort of emotions you create while you're teaching in online mode. Because I personally also struggle when I teach through Collaborate every Thursday evening. Some of the students choose to keep their videos off. I'm lucky enough because my students are old enough that I see some faces, but many lecturers in university complain that we are speaking to a blank screen. And it's impacting students. Surely there is something impacting students' emotions. It is impacting teachers' emotions as well. You can use this questionnaire to look at the emotional climate of the teachers in the university. Maybe leadership should look at that. How is current COVID impacting the, emotions in these teachers? That's one thing. Moving on from that, we have come up with 7 latent variables, 41 items. 41 items is not a huge questionnaire and doesn't take long to complete. To get valid responses, I'm always of this opinion that not to keep our questionnaires very long. And although I would have liked sample to be maybe larger, but we can do it in future as well. Future of CEC, we can evaluate the STEM programs. We can look at the correlation between, and it's all for you because we have 17 people, I think, here, attending. We can come up with 17 different research projects. You could look at what is the correlation between positive emotional climate in the classroom and student outcomes, which we generally say marks or cognitive achievement of students. What is the difference between student and teacher perception of the classroom emotional climate? Teacher would maybe think that I have the best emotional climate, but students may not think, or vice versa. Links between different environments. same classroom, you have a class and students have one emotion in biology class and other in physics, and what is leading it. And we could develop a preferred and actual form. The one we right now have is actual, but we could also do a preferred, what type of environment would you want? And mostly action research to do improve classrooms, which is, I think Juli is aiming at that. You identify your emotional climate in the classrooms and then move on and look at one variable, try to improve that, and then we move on from there. I think I will stop here right now before, and then I'll take you to other parts of this study. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you have to stop share first, Rekha.
No, I'm just trying to.
Another file?
No, I'm just trying to hide thumbnail. It's not letting me. Sorry, I can't find stop sharing.
So it should be.
Yeah, it should be at the bottom.
Or you just post.
Yeah.
That's good.
Has it stopped sharing?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Now what I would say, Juli has already shared a link. I am also sharing a link, which is in your chat box. Juli, which one should they do? Google Forms or the research curtin .edu.au?
The Google form, so it will be.
Yeah.
But
In
not
Google,
this link. It is from me.
yeah.
It's the other one, Rekha, because it's sharing is for you. The other one is for the respondent. Can Bu Susi give the conclusion first, Rekha? In bahasa.
Okay.
In bahasa.
Okay.
Okay.
Because after they do the questionnaire, I have something more to talk to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Bu Susi,
Yeah.
please. In is mute.
First, I need to delete the background because it's I
Big.
become blue. I become blue. So I will resume what you present, Ibu Rekha, to our audience in bahasa.
Thank you, Ibu.
Bapak Ibu, apa yang disampaikan oleh Ibu Rekha, ini saya resumenya aja ya, jadi tidak kata per kata. Tadi Ibu Rekha menjelaskan bahwa isu kesehatan mental itu kalau dulu dimulai dari usia remaja sampai dewasa awal, sekarang mereka sudah mulai mengalami isu kesehatan mental di usia yang lebih muda gitu. Jadi kita perlu memberikan penjelasan karena sekolah seringkali hanya memberikan penjelasan atau memberikan perhatian pada area-area kognitif aja. Jadi tidak memberikan tidak memberikan perhatian kepada area-area emosional. Nah, karena Bu Rekha itu latar belakangnya itu berasal dari STEM. STEM ini Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. Maka Ibu Rekha kemudian mengembangkan satu instrumen yang bisa membantu guru-guru yang mengajar STEM. Kalau di kita tuh MIPA kali ya Mbak Juli ya, untuk memberikan perhatian kepada emosi. Tapi kalau kita lihat sebenarnya sains teknologi ini sekarang itu menjadi hal yang sangat penting untuk pembelajaran. Jadi kalau kita lihat dari penjelasan Mas Menteri misalnya langkah-langkah saintifik, kemudian juga penggunaan teknologi itu kan sebenarnya digunakan untuk hampir semua mata pelajaran ya. Nah, jadi ini bagian yang penting. Nah, ketika kita membahas mengenai langkah-langkah saintifik dan teknologi, kita juga hendaknya tidak mengabaikan hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan emosional. Nah, untuk itu kemudian Ibu Rekha mengembangkan satu instrumen untuk mengembangkan mengembangkan iklim emosional di dalam pembelajaran sehingga kita bisa mengembangkan pembelajaran kita. Nah, walaupun penelitian awalnya itu di area STEM, tapi kalau kita lihat dari instrumennya itu sebenarnya bisa digunakan untuk hampir di semua mata pelajaran ya Mbak Juli ya. Nih, kemudian dan Ibu Rekha juga menjelaskan bahwa pekerjaan sekarang membutuhkan keterampilan-keterampilan STEM itu. Kita bisa lihat ya dengan adanya COVID ini, kita bisa lihat bagaimana keterampilan teknologi itu menjadi bagian yang sangat penting juga, dan beberapa pekerjaan juga sudah mengubah ya cara kerjanya menjadi berbasis teknologi. Nah, kelas-kelas STEM itu belum terlalu mempertimbangkan emosi. Nah, untuk inilah kemudian riset Ibu Rekha. Bu Rekha sebenarnya dari bagian yang panjang dari presentasi tadi adalah membicarakan mengenai proses pengembangan dan validasi instrumen. Jadi memang di tingkat universitas biasanya kalau kita ingin mengembangkan satu instrumen dan melakukan validasi itu ada langkah-langkah yang rigorous ya. Nah, ini yang tadi dibicarakan oleh Ibu Rekha, ada 3 langkah-langkah. Yang pertama tadi beliau menjelaskan, ini kalau kita lihat ya langkah-langkah validasi instrumennya sangat rigorous ya. Jadi ada 3 langkah, artinya dia mencakup semuanya. Pertama adalah phase validation, jadi sesudah si pengembang memiliki instrumen biasanya itu divalidasi oleh uji ahli ya. Kalau di kita ada namanya uji ahli, kemudian dapat masukan-masukan, diperbaiki lagi. Sesudah itu ada focus group interview ya dengan students. Nah, kemudian dari hasil masukan-masukan students itu instrumennya diperbaiki lagi. Kemudian setelah perbaikan, maka kemudian ada yang disebut sebagai large scale field testing, yaitu tes untuk penggunaan yang lebih besar. Nah, ini semua dilakukan dengan ada review etiknya gitu ya. Jadi nggak bisa sembarangan kita mau menggunakan ini. Biasanya ada review etiknya. Nah, saya membimbing mahasiswa S3 dari Australia, itu memang review etiknya panjang banget ya. Jadi ada sampai 30 review ethics ya, ethic review itu it's so difficult it's so complicated juga gitu ya. Jadi ini instrumen yang sudah dikembangkan dengan begitu baik gitu ya. Nah, ini ada dari hasil dan juga menggunakan model-model yang sangat mutakhir ya. Tadi Bu Rekha menyebut dengan rush model. Rush model ini adalah rush model yang termasuk paling mutakhir. Kalau di bimbingan konseling juga biasanya ini rush model digunakan. Artinya kalau mahasiswa menggunakan rush model, biasanya kita lihat mahasiswa sanggup atau enggak gitu ya. Jadi bukan model yang sangat sembarangan. Nah, ini jadi dari hasil pengembangan instrumen dan validasi instrumen itu ada 7 aspek ya, ada 7 aspek yang berkaitan dengan classroom emotional climate ini, yaitu ada consolidation atau konsolidasi, collaboration kolaborasi, control atau kendali, motivation, care ya kepedulian, challenge tantangan, dan clarity atau kejernihan. Jadi 7 inilah yang semacam rambu-rambu gitu ya. Kalau kita ingin mengembangkan classroom environment climate, 7 hal ini yang harus kita lihat apakah di kelas kita mencakup ke 7 hal itu. Begitu kalau nggak salah ya Mbak Juli ya.
Iya. Bapak Ibu. Jadi setelah ini tadi kan ada 7 aspek tadi ya. But Rekha, you gave them the last scale of attitude, isn't it?
Pardon?
You
Yeah,
give,
there is attitude scale as well. The questionnaire I shared with you yesterday
yeah.
has attitude scale
Yeah.
as well.
Nah, tambah lagi ada skala attitude ya, sikap. Jadi Bapak Ibu bisa mengukur juga sikap anak-anak terhadap kelas Bapak Ibu. Nah, skalanya kan ada sekian tuh, ada 8 berarti. Nah, Bapak Ibu boleh tipe penelitiannya itu misalnya, oh saya cuma mau tahu kelas-kelas yang saya ajar emosinya seperti apa, udah sekali sebar selesai. Bisa juga Bapak Ibu setelah awal Bapak Ibu sebar, terus Bapak Ibu lihat, nih yang rendah nih saya nggak care sama anak-anak. Nah, gimana tuh caranya? Bapak Ibu melakukan tindakan apa supaya care? Misalnya dilakukan 2 minggu, setelah itu disebar lagi. Nah, kita lihat gimana respon dia setelah Bapak Ibu melakukan sesuatu. Jadi sebenarnya itu aja. Jadi saya berharap instrumen ini bisa dijadikan informasi Bapak Ibu untuk memperbaiki emosi dalam pembelajaran ya. Boleh ditambah mau wawancara, mau anak-anak nulis open question, itu terserah, nggak apa-apa. Jadi nambah data lagi, misalnya di bawah Google Form Bapak Ibu mau nambah komennya bagaimana tentang kelas Bapak Ibu gitu, misalnya dalam aspek apa gitu, itu bisa juga ditambahkan. So Rekha, we already gave the link on the chat for the respondent.
Can people take 10 minutes and fill up the questionnaire fast?
So I mean, what is they assess? Their classroom?
Their own, yes, their own perception.
Okay.
As a teacher, how
As a
do they
teacher.
feel?
Jadi Bapak Ibu silahkan Bapak Ibu isi kuesioner yang ada di link itu ya. Sekarang diberi waktu 10 menit. Bapak Ibu kan jadi gini, kuesioner itu bisa dibagi student yang ngisi, student itu menilai kelas Bapak Ibu atau Bapak Ibu persepsi sendiri. Nanti hasil penelitiannya itu bisa dibandingin. Jangan-jangan Bapak Ibu terlalu percaya diri gitu, oh kelas saya baik-baik aja, padahal siswanya merasa kelas Bapak Ibu bermasalah. Itu bisa dipakai. Jadi silahkan melakukan self assessment pakai instrumen ini. Silahkan Bapak Ibu.
Although the questionnaire is worded from student point of view, but let them think it as a teacher.
Pertanyaannya kan masih pertanyaan kayak ngasih ke siswa nih. Jadi sekarang Bapak Ibu anggap aja itu pertanyaannya kelas saya sangat care dengan siswa gitu. Jadi nanti kami bikin juga version untuk teachers-nya. Silakan Bapak Ibu.
Bila ada pertanyaan bisa langsung atau lewat chat ya, Bu Juli ya.
Ya. So Rekha, we gave them the English and the bahasa Indonesia as well and
it's
then probably after this I will ask as well if there is any question that not clear because we just doing the translation and need to make sure it is understand.
Give them 10 minutes, that would be enough. Because it has 41 questions, it won't take them more. Like 10 minutes is more than enough. Let them do it. When you were translating it, did you find it difficult, Juli? Or someone else did it for you?
I share it to Bu Susi, and Bu Susi is the one who check it, the translation.
Did you find it difficult, Bu Susi?
Not really, but
not really.
but there is some different way to making statement, because in Indonesia we usually put subject first, not in passive voice.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Because now, Ibu Susi, you will be leading this research in collaboration with Juli and whosoever. What you would do is use this questionnaire as a model and then change it to your need. And yes, I'm there to support. And in my, the last slide where I had future users of CEC, evaluation of STEM programs, investigation of classroom climate and student outcome, differences between student perception and teacher perception, links between different environments, which could be different subjects, use of actual and preferred, and Juli has mastered developing that. And action research. Action research is something which I would be very much interested in. Keeping in view, quite a few of your teachers will be using this questionnaire. So you don't want everyone to be doing the same thing. You can have different projects in different cloud, like different teachers taking up different projects.
After reading this instrument, while I check the instruments, I'm thinking about, is it okay if I use this for my class?
Yes.
For my own class,
Yeah, your own
college
class,
students?
and it gives you instant feedback. That's what, when I talk about the action research, is you use it for your class and instantly you see that, oh, my scores are not very good with maybe care. I would like to make students feel more cared. And when you make them feel more cared, obviously, when you are caring for the students, consultation is going up, motivation will go up, control will come down. You will be putting the challenge there. You are caring, so your instructions will be quite clear. So it's not going to impact only one side, it will be impacting overall.
Yeah, since I am a Juli a head of department, so while I'm checking this instrument, I'm thinking about using it to my colleague as a lecture to improve our classes. So that's what exactly what I'm thinking about what Juli said, comparing between what teachers say, what lecturer might think about their classes and what students think about their classes. So I think we need to have some kind of this kind of data to start where to improve our classes.
Yeah, I will share this PowerPoint with you later. And if you look at the future users, I have definitely put one of them is difference between student and teacher perceptions.
Okay, okay, I'll read that.
That could be one of them.
Thank you so much for the permission.
No, welcome. Anything for Jakarta and UNJ.
Maybe later we can have some kind of discussion about this in college, in a university level, Julia.
Yeah.
If I'm use it in my department, so we can discuss what the results, so we can compare the result. I think that's also interesting.
So
and how we make improve in our classes.
There is a conference happening on not tomorrow, day after, on 30th. It starts from tomorrow, which is gender in STEM education, where I'm presenting this results of this study. But what we did, we looked at only co-educational schools. Some of the schools where some of the private schools have a single gender. So we took out that data and only had data from schools which were co-educational, and looked at the gender difference, and not only gender difference on its own, gender differences in private schools and gender differences in public schools. And that has also come up as a very interesting finding. So that could be other way of looking at it. Other bit I did last year, I think I presented last year in UNJ, one of the presentations is when COVID hit, all of a sudden we closed our university. Although we were very lucky here in Perth, our university closed went under lockdown for only 10 weeks. And after 10 weeks, students came back. So then I ran it with university students, and what we found that all students, except for only one question, I haven't done thorough analysis of that data yet, but overall, students enjoyed face-to-face more than the online classes. And for all questions, when we were open, we had higher scores than during the closed down lockdown. So that's one more thing you can look at if you have access that way.
Yeah, I think
Ask students about their emotional climate during the lockdown, because
yes, right.
there are many concerns in students.
Mhm.
Are people asking questions
No,
in the chat box? Okay.
no, it seems like the audience listen to us while actually we're having this conversation to apa ya, to to manage the time while we are waiting for them
Yeah.
filling the instruments. So I'm afraid that they might listen to us because it is something that they need to know.
Yes.
So I thought I say to the audience that you can feel the instruments. Our conversations here is because we are waiting for you.
Okay. So can I ask you one thing after they do it?
Mhm.
Are you happy to lead the conversation with them? What did they find? Or I'll ask the question, and then if required, you may need to translate it for me. I think we can ask, or maybe ask them to ask questions, and then we'll, yeah.
Oke, Bapak Ibu ada pertanyaan nggak mengenai apa yang tadi sudah saya resumekan mengenai instrumen ini? Atau ketika Bapak Ibu membaca instrumennya, apakah ada pertanyaan mengenai ini?
Henny is done.
Yes.
Henny is very fast. So you see, it hasn't taken her more than 5 minutes. So we can give students 15 minutes. What I found with time, it was easy to, there was a time when we could give a 40-minute questionnaire to students, not anymore.
Yes.
It has to be short.
Mhm. I asked them whether they have questions about the questionnaire. So we are waiting. Maybe most of them still filling the
Doing it.
Okay. Nanti Bapak Ibu kalau ada pertanyaan baik ketika mengisi instrumen, boleh. Oh, okay. There is questions for you how to apa ya Mbak Yuli ya mengolah
Apa?
Aku lupa.
How to analyze the data.
How to analyze the data through this instrument.
Yes, the easiest thing is getting means of each scale. Because if you look at each, or we can even get means at question level. If you look at scale 1, care, I like the way I was treated when I needed help. I was treated nicely when I asked questions. So since the response is on a 5-point Likert scale, so what is the mean? Is it number? What you would do is your score and divide it by the number of students in the classroom.
Okay.
And that gives the mean on that question. But if we really want the mean of the whole scale, we aggregate the questions score and then divide it by the number of students we have and have an overall view. I did run many years back workshops in UNJ using SPSS, and I know Juli and Ella have mastered it. Juli, you may have to give one lesson on how to, now that they're doing this on Google Doc, you will generate the data and maybe give half an hour lesson using SPSS. But what you will require that they will also need to have SPSS on their computers.
Otherwise, the mean is the simple one for the teachers.
To get the feedback. That's simplest.
Jadi Bapak Ibu, kalau mau mengolah yang sederhana ya hitung rata-rata per dimensi aja. Misalnya care ada 7 pertanyaan misalnya. Ya udah rata-ratanya berapa. Nah, karena skalanya 1 sampai 5 misalnya berarti kalau di atas 3,5 di atas 3 ya tinggi berarti dia positif. Tapi ada scale yang negatif yang di bawah ya. Jadi nanti ngitungnya balik. Kan tadinya 1 2 3 4 5. Jadi nanti dibalik 5 4 3 2 1 gitu. Yang negatif. Karena kan kita mau lihat hal yang positif. Maksudnya rata-ratanya kita mau analisisnya nanti yang positif. Gitu. Udah nanti Bapak Ibu tahu dari semua dimensi itu anak-anak itu paling kecil yang mana. Berarti itu yang harus Bapak Ibu perbaiki. Tapi kan anak-anak kadang gitu ya jawabnya, ini kan makanya bikin kuesioner jangan panjang-panjang karena anak-anak jawabnya kan main jawab-jawab aja gitu. Jadi tolong anak-anak diminta ini untuk memperbaiki ibu mengajar, interaksi dengan kalian dan sebagainya, jadi kita dapat feedback yang baik gitu. Nah nanti paling mungkin Bapak Ibu juga sambil menunggu seperti ini sih biasanya yang agak efektif, karena kadang kalau disebar-sebar anak-anak tuh suka ya itu ya, kalau nggak balik lagi yang isinya nggak konsen anak-anak itu. Yeah, I just told them the challenge of completing the questionnaire during the online Rekha this situation. Everyone just share the link completing and then
Mungkin ini ya,
Yeah.
jadi kita
No, it's just giving them an experience
yeah,
and access to the questionnaire.
yeah, right. Good
We
point.
can't analyze it at this time, but I think should we resume? Ask them to stop now.
Yeah,
You
you can
it
click.
because they have the link and they can use it later as well.
Yeah, so Bapak Ibu, so is already 20. Wait.
ini I have another question.
Yes.
This is from Ibu Laras. She's asking, she just start to teach for 1 week because it's new semester. She asked whether she can give this instrument to her student right away, or should she wait for another some months?
At least teach for 4 weeks. That's for most of the learning environment questionnaires. We recommend that student teachers should interact for 4 weeks before any perceptual data can be collected.
Oke, jadi tunggu 4 minggu dulu ya Bapak Ibu sebulan sebelum instrumen ini diberikan kepada anak-anak. Kemudian ini ada pertanyaan dari Ibu Nur Camima, berarti ngisinya bisa sinkronus dengan anak, bisa ya, bisa sinkronus, tapi memang sebaiknya sih kalau anak-anak mungkin dikasih waktu berapa menit gitu untuk ngisi, sebab kalau misalnya dibiarin itu ngisinya bisa lama. Gitu, bisa. Oke, itu bisa. Jadi ya bisa sinkronus, bisa pada saat itu juga. Jadi ketika ibu memberikan instruksi, kemudian ditunggu apakah mereka udah mengisi semua atau belum, ya bisa, Bu Nur.
Nanti kalau Bapak Ibu mau pakai link ini juga, misalnya Bu Juli saya nitip dong biar saya nggak buat lagi. Nanti saya buat, nanti Ana sama Cucu minta tolong buat. Berarti nama siswa, nama guru, nama sekolah, kelasnya gitu, Ana. Ya. Jadi kita bisa nanti kita tarik, kita kasih ke Bapak Ibu datanya gitu aja. Kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu biar nggak 2 kali. Terus nanti saya edit yang lectures atau apa, nanti jadi edit jadi guru gitu. Gitu aja ya Bu Susi ya, supaya Bapak Ibu guru nggak terlalu ini.
Baik, ya, betul.
So Rekha, we just told them that if they would like to use this link, so I will put the teacher's name, the student's name. I'm not sure the student names.
It depends
on the aims
on the research project. It's before using it, they may have to develop a small proposal, what they're wanting to find, and accordingly, the questions can be asked or added.
Okay.
Mungkin sedikit Bu Juli ya. Sebenarnya buat Bapak Ibu yang ingin membuat semacam PTK gitu ya, kita bisa menggunakan kesempatan ini. Jadi Bapak Ibu bisa bikin proposal singkat gitu ya, yang kemudian bagian apanya yang akan
diperbaiki.
Nah, jadi dari yang Bapak Ibu lakukan di kegiatan ini, itu Bapak Ibu juga bisa melaporkan untuk penelitian PTK Bapak Ibu, gitu ya Bu Juli ya?
Iya, benar.
You know, they need to have some research question or research aim. It could be simple as finding out the emotional climate in my classroom. And then what are you going to do with it? If you don't want to be identifying the students, then there's no need to have student names. But if the same teacher is teaching in multiple classes, they may ask them for the class, whatever is the identification section name or whatever, to see the difference between emotional climate in class A, B, and C. It depends on whom you are collecting data from. If you're going to look at the gender differences, you will surely ask the gender. If you're going to look at the differences in different cities or different universities, you know, your university lecturers, you may want to do the same study in multiple universities. So you will then ask the name of the university.
Benar. Yes, right. So nanti Bapak Ibu, kalau Bapak Ibu mau tahu persepsi siswa laki-laki sama perempuan beda, nanti kita tambahkan jadi jenis kelamin di instrumennya. Terus Bapak Ibu, Bu Yuli saya ngajar kelas 10, kelas 11. Nah, berarti kelasnya ditambahkan. Mau tahu bedanya persepsi anak kelas 10 sama kelas 11. Atau misalnya Bapak Ibu ngajarnya ternyata anaknya dari berbagai etnik grup atau apa gitu kan ya, background yang beda-beda, berarti infonya itu yang mau ditambahkan.
Ini ada pertanyaan juga, apakah teman-teman boleh ditambahkan sebagai editor sehingga bisa copy dan edit sesuai dengan sekolah? Mungkin itu nanti dipertimbangkan secara teknis ya.
Nanti yang share yang link ya. Yang share link itu sebenarnya bisa, tapi ini nanti kasih anak waktu ya nambah info itu nama sekolah gitu. Nah, jadi nanti Bapak Ibu bisa download juga ya kan lah ya. Iyalah. Download juga dari situ, dari Excel-nya itu.
Bisa.
Setelah nanti anak tambah nama sekolah, nama siswa, kelas, jenis kelamin, nah itu aja dulu. Yang lectures terus diganti teachers ya.
Jadi yang di-share yang result-nya.
Nanti Bapak Ibu yang link yang respon tinggal di-download. Anytime Bapak Ibu mau lihat anak-anaknya udah isi atau belum, tinggal di-download gitu.
Soalnya kalau kebanyakan di-share yang edit sebagai
takut
editor,
keedit.
Ke
nanti kehapus, deg-degan saya, nanti kayak hilang data kita semuanya.
Ya.
Jadi nanti Ana share link ke Bapak Ibu yang respon nak, yang link yang respon. Bisa kan ya lah dikunci gitu ya?
Bisa.
Tapi mungkin nanti ini kita bicarakan teknis aja kali ya, Mbak Yuli.
Tapi ini sekarang kita tambahkan aja dulu, nggak apa-apa. Yang mana? Yang nama sekolah.
Oke, ini habis ini kegiatan kita apa?
Rekha mau nyampein lagi. Rekha mau ada diskusi dengan mereka tentang completing this questionnaire. Rekha, I think they are already completing.
Okay. Now, do they have any question? My teacher wants me to use my thinking skills, not just memorize things. It needs more explanation to my students, open their mind. They have their own perceptions. Thinking skills, Yang, Kopa,
Okay, thinking still that they have tried to implement since the last semester is visible thinking routines. It seems like in this questionnaire there is some questions about thinking skill.
Yes.
And Ibu Heni think that it's more explanation for her students, because the thinking skill that they implement in their school last semester is about visible thinking routines. It seems like maybe Ibu Heni asked, is that the same with the thinking skill that you mean in this instrument?
Yes, sort of like because these questions were mainly towards STEM, which are hands-on activities. So when you're doing those hands-on activities, is teacher or those activities stimulating their thinking and their thinking skills are developing. But again, how are you defining your thinking skills? In this case, is teacher asking some questions which is making students think? Which can very well happen in online classes. Instead of giving them answers, are you asking them questions which will make them think?
Jadi pertanyaan tentang thinking skill ini harus mengenai kegiatan yang membuat mereka benar-benar berpikir gitu ya. Jadi bukan hanya menyebutkan yang ada di buku gitu. Kelihatannya gitu. Gitu Ibu Heni.
May I give some questions that I've already give for my students at this week?
Okay.
Yeah. Any wants to say something?
Ibu Heni wants to share something, so
Yeah,
we
that would be great.
Sure.
This is one of my questions at the beginning of the class. What are you thinking about human rights? If you hear about human rights, the simple question at the beginning, and then this is about the fact about Hagia Sophia in Turkey. When they see this picture or these photos, what things that show that a Muslim or Islam give respect to another religion? Is this some question like this?
That is all up to you, Ibu Hene. Because what I said earlier as well is the questionnaire which we have developed, you can use it as a template, but you can further add or delete. You can completely delete a scale and add a scale of your own based on the subject you're teaching, because we didn't have anything to do with, in your case, you used it as a, moral science and mental health. We didn't do anything about that, but you can always add that and ask them questions around that.
Okay. What Ibu Heni asking is about what, since the instrument say my teacher wants me to use my thinking skill, not just memorize things. She asked about the questions like that she present is one of the example. Like,
yeah, that's perfectly all right. That's perfectly all. And after you did this lesson, you may want to apply this questionnaire, which takes students 10 minutes to fill. You already have the Google link now, and move it from Juli to yours so that responses come to you. And you have the response, immediately. It will go into an Excel. You can open it as an Excel form and readily analyze and get the means for it. Okay. If you have a huge class of 1,000 students, only look at the means and you get it instantly.
Oke, Bu Heni, ini Ibu Rekha bilang bahwa kita sebenarnya bisa menggunakan instrumen itu untuk melihat persepsi murid mengenai apakah kelas kita itu memang murid kita merasa bahwa kita menggunakan thinking skill. Nah, benar thinking skill itu benar yang bukan cuma memorize, artinya menghafal. Menghafal itu kalau begini, kayak kalau misalnya Ibu Heni ngasih bahan nih, kemudian kita tanya murid yang persis sama kayak bahan, nah itu baru menghafal. Jadi kalau misalnya ada pertanyaan mengenai apa itu HAM gitu ya, misalnya Bu Heni habis ngajar nih, HAM adalah bla 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 bla. Kemudian Ibu Heni nanya lagi, coba anak-anak apa itu HAM? Kan kadang-kadang kita mau ngecek ya. Nah, itu menghafal, that's memorizing. Tapi kalau misalnya Ibu Heni habis mengajar HAM, kemudian Ibu Heni nanya mengenai menurut kamu lihat nggak apa pelanggaran HAM yang selama ini kamu lihat di dalam kehidupan kita sehari-hari? Nah, that is not memorizing, that's thinking, because you ask, karena Ibu Heni meminta siswa untuk menganalisis berdasarkan pembelajaran HAM, tadi mereka melihat kehidupan sehari-harinya. Nah, itu tuh udah masuk di dalam thinking skill. Jadi, menghafal adalah kalau kita menanyakan lagi, persis sama apa yang kita berikan ke siswa. Nah, itu baru menghafal. Tapi kalau misalnya kita meningkatkan dari yang tadi kita berikan, misalnya, oh ini loh, hak-hak asasi manusia terdiri dari A, B, C, D, misalnya gitu. Misalnya hak sosial, misalnya ada hak mengemukakan pendapat. Nah, kemudian kita tanya, menurut kamu ngelihat nggak bagaimana kehidupan kita sehari-hari atau bagaimana di sekolah kita mendorong atau menghindari menutup hak-hak kamu untuk berpendapat. That thinking skill, gitu Bu Heni.
Then, yes, Susi.
So Bu Rekha, I'm a bit explain to Ibu Heni the differences between how to use thinking skill and memorizing in her classroom,
In
and
fact,
how to use this instrument.
If you remember when I started my talk this afternoon, I started with this was a gap we looked at and really wanted to see move from content or cognitive achievement to looking after these children. One of my colleagues who is a celebrated teacher here, and Juli knows him very well, David Henderson, he got Prime Minister's Best Teacher Award for 2 consecutive years.
Yes.
He was the best Australian teacher here. He says it doesn't matter what you teach. It matters how you make your students feel. If you make them feel good, they will automatically put their effort in learning and then they will improve. And that's what we are trying to do here. Look at where are they not feeling good? And as teachers, it's our responsibility, especially in current COVID times where everyone is doing quite hard to focus on their well-being. And if they're mentally well, if they feel happy, then only they'll focus on learning. That's the focus here.
As a people who work in mental health education, I cannot more agree with him.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Totally agree.
So, Bu Fitri, if you meet him, even if you ask his student, everyone just tell the positive thing about him. So the result of the questionnaire, Rekha, is almost perfect as a teacher.
Yeah. You know, that person, David, we talked about, after he retired from school teaching, he came and joined us here in Curtin for a while. And sometimes it happened. I did it maybe 2 times or 3 times with him. Like we had to go for a meeting from one building to other building, which is 5 minutes walk. But most of our students, many of our students would have been students from his school and knew him. It took me half an hour. And I said, David, I'm not working with you. After every 30 seconds, a student comes and tells him, hello, Mr. Henderson. And meeting was not important for him. Caring for the students was important for him. And I could see a caring teacher.
Yeah.
He must be living in hearts of so many students.
Yes.
Yes.
And
You-
that's what we need to do.
Yes. You have no idea how important this story for me during this time, yeah, Juli,
Yeah.
in our campus, what we did in our campus.
Yeah,
And
I'm
you,
in the
and you
stage of
mentioned this
emotion,
story, that's
Rekha.
really
All the
important.
administration things is come as a head of department. It seems like, oh my goodness.
And that happens. It's not only as a teacher. Now that Juli is talking about as head of the department, when you are looking after your staff and you got to protect them, sometimes it happens that you don't even let the other person know
Yeah.
what you're doing for that person.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And I've encountered quite a few cases, especially here in Curtin University, where I come from, a culturally diverse group. I'm not a Caucasian or a white person, and then that to a female. And the people working under you are reporting to you how I feel responsible to protect them.
Right. Exactly.
And that goes, unless they feel protected, unless they feel free, safe, they can't perform, they can't work.
Yeah.
Maybe I will translate this to our audience because this is important.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. Tadi Ibu Rekha cerita bagaimana tadi dia cerita mengenai salah seorang temannya, David, yang sangat disayangi oleh murid-muridnya karena beliau sangat care ya sama murid-muridnya. Jadi David mengatakan bahwa apapun dia mengatakan gini, sebenarnya nggak terlalu penting apa yang kita ajarkan di kelas dalam pengertian bahwa kalau kita bisa membuat siswa itu secara emosi, secara psikologis itu nyaman dalam pengertian mereka merasa mendapatkan support, maka mereka akan bisa belajar lebih baik. Dan sekarang itu mungkin ini penting sekali ya buat kita, karena kita seringkali fokus kepada nuntasin kurikulum, ngabisin kurikulum, kitanya udah capek segala macam. Bapak Ibu itu di kampus juga kejadian ya, bukan cuman di sekolah, di kampus juga kejadian. Jadi kita menghadapi seperti itu. Nah, sebenarnya apa ya, kayak kegiatan ini gitu ya, bagi saya sendiri juga mengingatkan saya kembali kepada apa sih yang paling penting dalam pendidikan kita gitu. Kalau misalnya kita nuntasin kurikulum banyak, siswa kita dijejelin bahan-bahan banyak, sementara mereka stres, kitanya stres, pendidikan kita mereka nggak bisa ngunyah gitu ya, saya istilahnya ngunyah deh ya, nggak bisa ngunyah apa yang mereka dapatkan, pada akhirnya mereka akan memiliki apa ya, negative feeling about learning. Jadi perasaan yang negatif tentang belajar, padahal itu kan yang nggak kita inginkan ya di dalam proses pembelajaran gitu. Nah, jadi mudah-mudahan apa ya, kegiatan kita ini ya, kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat kita ini bisa mengingatkan kembali kepada kita, ini kita semua ya, termasuk saya sama Mbak Juli gitu, bahwa tugas kita itu adalah develop humans. Dan part of the important things about humans is their emotion gitu. Jadi ini yang seringkali kita abaikan. Jadi kalau kita hanya mengembangkan cognitive area tanpa pay attention to emotional climate, emotional area of these humans, mungkin akhirnya kita kehilangan apa ya, kehilangan kesempatan yang penting untuk mengembangkan manusia. Dan bagian yang penting dari develop humans itu adalah relation. Makanya tadi kalau kita lihat collaboration, consolidation, kan itu kan bagian aspek yang sangat penting. Nah, itu yang bisa kita perbaiki dari pembelajaran kita gitu. Kalau saya sih lihat berdasarkan pengalaman saya, semakin siswa merasa tidak terancam gitu di dalam perkuliahan, semakin mereka mau diminta untuk baca buku yang berat-berat. Gitu. Ya, kalau misalnya kita udah harus gini,
awas ya kalau nggak ngerjain kalian nggak lulus.
Jadi itu tuh semakin the more they feel threat in their learning, the more they will defensive, the more they feel not ready to learn. Jadi semakin mereka defensif, semakin mereka nggak siap buat belajar, semakin mereka akan susah untuk membaca seperti yang kita harapkan. Jadi kalau saya ingin siswa saya membaca gitu, dia biasa ditanya, kamu apa dukungan apa yang bisa saya bantu supaya kamu bisa mengerjakan ini. So what can I help? Ya itu kan juga mengurangi kendali ya, mengurangi kontrol tuh less control gitu. Jadi tapi more support, less control, more consolidate, less control, more clarity ya, itu juga akan sangat membantu. Ada kalanya kan kita ngasih tugas, kitanya ngerti, siswanya nggak ngerti. Sometimes we give some instruction, maybe we understand our instruction, but student doesn't. So, jadi mereka kesulitan untuk ngerjainnya. Bukan nggak mau, bukannya males, tapi stres ini nggak tahu ini itu apa. Jadi kadang-kadang saya juga dapat pertanyaan dari mahasiswa, nanya, Mbak ini tuh maksudnya apa sih? Ini ada tugas dari dosen, tapi ini maksudnya apa? Jadi saya ngejelasin. Itu kan sebenarnya bagian dari clarity. Jadi kita perlu berpikir bahwa we have to have state of mind that our student want to learn. Jadi student kita ingin belajar, but they maybe need more support gitu. Jadi mereka butuh support.
What I've seen in certain cultures, because I come from India and I interact very much with Indian teachers. And I've seen similar culture in Southeast Asia as well, is there is a gap between teacher and student. I like having respect for guru is fine, but the teacher also has to have faith in students and develop that faith as we go ahead. And if we look after these emotional aspects which we have identified and developed in this questionnaire, that when we have faith for the student develops faith in us as well. It's similar to, in families, in traditional families, not in modern day families, but in traditional families, children would go running to mother because mother would listen. There was lesser distance between mother and the child. But fathers would keep themselves distant because it is in their DNA. It's a male figure. And students should feel comfortable in opening up to the teacher. That's when we call it clarity. Even if the instruction is not clear, students should be confident enough in asking politely. I'm not saying here student has to be rude. In a polite manner, and clarify the instruction. And we have to develop that sort of environment. And then only it is a good emotional climate for the child or the students in the classroom.
Oke, mungkin aku akan perlu diresume nggak ya? Atau teman-teman jangan udah ngerti.
Udah ngerti ya kali ya. Rekha, so it is already 2:30 and we still have half an hour. Do you have anything?
I have two more studies where we have used CEC. I will first use I'll just give them the scores of when we used before and after lockdown. And then the next one is again a recorded study which Felicity has recorded for me, where we used it for looking at gender differences, like giving the different ways. Should I share my screen?
Yes.
You have it?
Yes.
You have my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So After validation, which was done early last year, soon after that, COVID hit, Perth went into a lockdown, and then we decided for about 10 weeks, and I'm just putting it here, yeah. Then when we reopened in July, I thought it is really good to see what is the emotions in our students, because 10 weeks was good enough time for us to feel. In the beginning, there were many questions. When COVID hit, many people thought that we are going to die. We had many international students who thought that they will never see their families in international locations. But at the same time, we didn't stop teaching and learning. So what was happening?
Rekha, do you already share the screen or not?
I have, haven't I?
Yeah, it is your it is your screen
With
cover.
Saka.
Saka, yeah.
We see you with
Oh.
Saka there.
Is it there now?
Yeah. I think
Can you see?
Yeah,
Is it-
slideshow.
Yeah.
Is it Saka or the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint now.
The PowerPoint now, but you need to like the slideshow on the bottom.
Okay.
Be careful, it will be restart. Oh, it will be tomorrow, isn't it?
No, it is. It's giving me. I'll change. I removed it to the other
Yeah.
screen. Okay. So if you look at it, for all the questions, except for hours given adequate time to complete tasks, all other questions during lockdown has lower means than after the lockdown. Why this question has adequate time? Because when we went in lockdown, university said, don't pressure students on submitting work. We gave them lenience. This is to confirm, it's not the emotions I was looking, this is to confirm that students do prefer face-to-face, because we are still, the world is undergoing major changes. We are championing our online teaching. Despite that, I'm making it a point and it's not only me, there are many other studies which have happened over the year, over last year and this year, where we are confirming that students do prefer face-to-face teaching. Moving from care to control, clarity and challenge, all questions had higher means after lockdown. Motivation and consolidation, all questions have higher means, and very few questions have non-significant t-value, like the difference between after and before. And same was with collaboration and attitude to learning. So implication is, out of 42 behaviors, which is the 42 questions, 36 had statistically significant difference. Only one question in care scale had higher score during lockdown. Highest difference is seen in losing focus in scale of control, because definitely they would have lost focus during the lockdown. How it played on their emotion of focus. They didn't feel challenged during the lockdown, and collaboration was higher, which was positively and significantly in face-to-face. mode. It's sort of establishing that face-to-face is better than what we call online, and what the whole world is going on that bandwagon. It is true during COVID, technology has given us, we still kept the learning journey on in the world, but that shouldn't be the way. We should, I am not proposing that we should go fully in face-to-face, but probably look at hybrid model. There are many universities who are talking about completely in online mode, but research is showing no, that's not the right way. It's all up to you. I will stop this one, and as we stop this one, I'll go on to the others. Just give me only 1 minute. Sorry, it's
difficult.
No. Yes. I'm just leaving it for you to, Can you see gendered?
My name is Felicity McClure, and I'll be presenting the research that my colleagues Barry Fraser,
Can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay.
Rekha, Koul, and I have been carrying out under an Australian Research Council grant to investigate student perceptions of classroom emotional climate and attitudes to integrated STEM. In particular, this presentation will look at gendered perceptions and compare experiences in government and non-government schools. This research was carried out at Curtin University. As attendees of this conference on gender and STEM, you'll be aware of the push by governments for greater
I'm moving this little bit.
Developing STEM skills at high school based on the TOSTRA questionnaire. Classroom emotional climate looks at the social and classroom with a positive emotional climate is one where students feel that their teacher cares about their needs, their perspectives are taken into account, and where they are safe to ask questions and get help. Students in a classroom with positive emotional climate have been shown to display greater interest in their learning. The structure of these two questionnaires were validated using principal component analysis and confirmatory factor analysis. Both showed excellent fit for the classroom emotional climate questionnaire, which had 7 dimensions: care, control, clarity, challenge, motivation, consolidation, experiences to solve engineering, physics or computing problems than boys may be contributory factors. Despite the interest in understanding gender differences among high school students in individual STEM subjects, there have been limited studies comparing gender experiences in iSTEM classes. This is the focus of our research. So when we look at the high school landscape in Australia, we see that there's a greater percentage of students in Australia studying in non-government or fee-paying schools compared to most countries in the OECD. Across all schools in Australia, there are twice as many boys as girls studying advanced mathematics and 3 times as many boys as girls choosing physics. The proportion of girls choosing these subjects in non-government schools, however, is somewhat greater than for the government schools. Students in non-government schools have higher attainment levels at the end of compulsory schooling than those in government schools when controlling for socioeconomic status, which advantages these students in entering university. These differences between government and non-government schools led us to separate out the data that we collected to see if there were gender differences in experiences of iSTEM projects between these school types. Indeed, could iSTEM projects be a way forward to encourage more students, particularly more girls in the government school sector, into staying in the STEM pipeline? So our research questions then are, what are the differences between male and female perceptions of the integrated STEM classroom and its emotional climate and attitudes towards STEM? Are there gender differences in perceptions of CEC and attitudes to STEM when students undertake iSTEM projects as part of multidisciplinary curricula compared to unidisciplinary curricula in government or non-government schools? So by multidisciplinary curricula, we mean where science, technology, engineering and mathematics are truly integrated within the lessons, and all lessons are taught in that way, compared to unidisciplinary curricula where, for example, in a science classroom, there may be a 2 or 3 week project which is considered a STEM project where science, technology, engineering or mathematics is combined in some way. So our sample was taken from 24 co-educational grade 7 to 9 classes in government schools and 12 co-educational grade 7 to 10 classes in non-government schools. We only looked at the co-educational classes so that we could compare girls and boys. We did also have data from single-sex schools, but we excluded those for the purpose of this study. So the classes were in remote areas, regional areas of towns of Western Australia and city and in Perth. And they covered a wide range of socioeconomic groups. Students were either completing integrated STEM projects within their normal science, maths, or technology classes, that's what we're calling the unidisciplinary iSTEM classes, or within classes which focused on integrating STEM skills throughout the semester, and which we're calling the multidisciplinary iSTEM groups. When we asked about the types of projects that students were completing, we found that they mainly involved engineering or computer programming, as you can see. Students were asked to think about their experiences as they completed the iSTEM project while they were answering the questions in the 2 questionnaires. Analysis of the questionnaire data involved conversion of items responses for each scale into Roche measures, resulting in linear interval measures for each scale. Differential item functioning for responses between males and females was investigated to find out if girls and boys had similar understandings of each of the items. Finally, Maneuver and Vancouver comparisons were made between responses of males and females, and Cohen effect sizes were calculated. When we carried out the Vancouver, we controlled for SES, socioeconomic status, and we used the SEA data, which is a measure of socioeconomic status.
With SES, what we used here are all schools have a rating based on the socioeconomic status of that area they are living in.
So these are the different scales on the questionnaire, and with an example describing those scales and the sample items for each scale. So, for instance, the consolidation scale there looks at the extent to which students perceive that their teachers consolidate understanding, consults with students, and shows them how to improve. For example, my teacher asked me questions whether I put my hand up or not. So, first of all, we looked at the data collected from government schools. The differential item functioning showed that there were no cases for which the diff contrast was large enough to suggest that there was a significant difference between the ways in which boys and girls understood the items. This gave us confidence to compare differences in responses between genders. A Manova test showed that there were statistically significant multivariate differences in responses to the CEC and attitudes to STEM scales by gender. The between subject effects showed differences in gender perceptions in the scales of clarity, motivation, consolidation, and attitudes to STEM. A total of 17.1% of the variance in responses was due to gender. Because of prior studies which found that socioeconomic status was a significant predictor of school outcomes, a Manova test was run on the data, controlling for SES. However, we found that there was no significant effect of SES on either male or female responses to questionnaires. When we compare the mean Roche measures for responses to each scale by males and females, we see that apart from the scale of control, girls were more negative than boys on all other scales. These differences were particularly pronounced in the scales of attitudes to STEM and motivation. Girls were also significantly less positive than boys about the clarity of their instruction, the degree of challenge presented by the projects, and the amount of consolidation that teachers provided to their learning. However, when we include the data from both government and non-government schools, we see that there are no significant differences between the perceptions of males and females in the non-government schools. This is the yellow lines in this graph. On the other hand, both boys and girls in government schools, that's the blue lines, were more positive about all measurement scales than boys and girls in the non-government schools. So in order to probe these differences further, a Manova test comparing government and non-government schools controlling for SES showed that the differences between these schools was significant in all scales. So both boys and girls in government schools were significantly more positive about their classroom emotional climate, all scales of their classroom emotional climate, and their attitudes to STEM than those in non-government schools.
Your favorite.
So a more nuanced understanding of gender differences is obtained when we look at whether students were completing iSTEM projects in unidisciplinary or multidisciplinary classes. So in government schools here, we're looking at just the government schools, the females in multidisciplinary classes, that's the light blue lines, were slightly more positive than the boys in most scales. And both boys and girls were more positive overall than those in unidisciplinary classes. On the other hand, the differences between multidisciplinary and unidisciplinary classes were less clear-cut in the non-government schools. Boys were more positive overall about all aspects of their iSTEM experience in multidisciplinary classes, apart from the scale of control, whereas girls, however, had similar experiences in unidisciplinary and multidisciplinary classes, except in the scales of care and collaboration, where they were significantly more positive when doing iSTEM projects in multidisciplinary classes. So overall, when we look at government schools, we see that girls have a less positive experience within their iSTEM classes than boys, particularly those that are doing in unidisciplinary STEM classes. They perceive that their teachers are providing less clarity and consolidation of instruction. They're less motivated by the type of iSTEM projects that they're given, and they find them less challenging than boys. This may well be related to the types of iSTEM projects that we found most teachers were providing their students with. Most were engineering or computing based, and the prior studies had already shown that interest in STEM tends to be gendered, with girls being more interested in the types of projects that focus on health and involve interpersonal skills. We suggest that the engineering or computing projects that teachers choose are reinforcing these stereotypes about STEM careers. Furthermore, these projects require skills that girls feel less confident in or have less experience with, that is hands-on building or programming tasks. This may well be why girls feel that they need more clarity and consolidation of instruction and why they are less motivated to do these tasks. The more positive perceptions of clarity and consolidation of instruction in the multidisciplinary classes may be due to girls generally having a longer time to
There we go.
Yeah.
This was one more example of showing that from same data, you can get a different insight. So when I look at CEC, its use is quite varied.
Yeah.
And you can run multitude of studies using this question.
Jadi Bapak Ibu nanti kuesionernya tergantung pertanyaan penelitian lah, misalnya ya Bapak Ibu, misalnya gini, saya ingin mengetahui persepsi siswa laki-laki dan perempuan, bedanya apa gitu. Atau saya ingin mengetahui kelas IPS, misalnya Bapak Ibu kolaborasi sama guru lain, kelas kimia sama kelas sosial misalnya IPS gitu. Nah itu bisa juga, misalnya Bu Muji mau bandingkan sama Bu Titik misalnya gitu, kelasnya silahkan, misalnya dalam satu sekolah. Tapi memang Rekha, so for the level of education, it should be the secondary or because
it was
it is not
validated at secondary school,
secondary.
but you can use it in tertiary as well as primary because the language is very simple, and especially if when you are translating it into Bahasa, you can keep the language simple.
Yeah.
With primary, main issue is do students understand the language? But if you keep it the local language and keep it simple, I don't see any issue. Don't give it to year 2s and 3s.
Yeah, for
but
5,
anyone
6.
5, 6 should be okay.
Kalau SD bisa, kalau Bapak Ibu mau pakai lebih, bahasanya disederhanakan aja, nanti anak akan share duplikat aja. Jadi Bapak Ibu bisa duplikat Google Form kami, terus silahkan dimodifikasi datanya. Tapi kalau mau pakai link dari saya juga udah tinggal dipakai ya. Kalau mau duplikat silahkan ditambahkan datanya. So,
anyone, if I'm happy to, if you have a big set of data, I'm happy to analyze it for them, but you can do it, or even there are so many people in your university who can do it. Anyone needing support with that, we can help.
Yeah, as a teachers, it's quite challenging for them as well. Bapak Ibu, kalau Bapak Ibu set datanya banyak, mau dibantu dianalisis, Rekha mau bantu. Rekha kan ada yang bantuin juga ya. Atau kalau misalnya mau kami juga banyak dosen statistik. Jadi kalau bingung nih diapain pertanyaannya apa aja yang mau dihitung gitu ya. Kalau Bapak Ibu mau tinggal dianalisisnya pusing gitu ya, bisa nanti kayak kami bantu. Yang penting sekarang apa nih, mau ngambil data apa, kuesionernya disebar. Saya mau sebar kuesioner aja Bu, selesai. Tapi ada lagi mungkin yang saya mau ambil kelas saya melakukan refleksi kayak PTK, saya sebar lagi setelah itu, ya boleh juga, silahkan sebelum dan sesudah. Gitu. Any question? Bu Susi lagi ke toilet. Bu Susi sudah kembali? Belum ya? Susi just get permit to go to restroom.
I have already here, but I'm answering the question from chat.
Oh, oke. Bapak Ibu ada pertanyaan lagi? Any questions before? I think we already reached
for the day.
Yeah. Any questions? So Rekha, we will, if you have time, we will meet them again after they have data collection, even probably the analysis, so they can reflect what they learned throughout the questionnaires. But probably August or September, or depend on when they finish.
Not a problem.
Ya Bapak Ibu, kami berikan kesempatan kepada Bapak Ibu ya, karena ilmunya sudah dapat, bisa digunakan untuk memperbaiki pembelajaran juga, bisa Bapak Ibu pakai, mungkin nanti kita akan ada pertemuan lagi dengan Rekha setelah Bapak Ibu dapat datanya, dapat analisisnya gitu ya. Kalau analisisnya nanti komunikasi sama kami setelah kita dapat resultnya. Jadi kita di Zoom lagi untuk merefleksikan, Rekha saya belajar ini ternyata harus seperti ini gitu. Jadi inginnya seperti itu untuk improvement kelas Bapak Ibu. Mungkin nanti akhir Agustus atau awal September kita berikan waktu kurang lebih sebulanan lah ya untuk ngambil data dan sebagainya. Nanti kalau ada masalah kita bisa diskusikan. Bu Dia ada pertanyaan?
Ya, Bu Yuli.
Ya.
Ini kaitan sama STEAM kan. Jadi di kelas saya kasih ini dulu pendahuluan dulu. Jadi kelas 2 saya sekarang ngajar kelas 12 kimia ya. Kalau kelas 12 itu semester 1 itu kan awalnya ada 3 bab, ada sifat koligatif larutan, redoks, kemudian kimia unsur. Nah, untuk yang kompetensi darurat, kompetensi dasar darurat masa pandemi itu jadi hanya satu saja, yaitu redoks saja. Nah, di bab redoks itu kan ada beberapa subbab ya. Ada yang pertama tuh penyetaraan reaksi redoks, kemudian yang kedua ada sel volta, kemudian yang ketiga ada korosi, yang keempat Faraday. Nah, kalau misalkan saya ambil proyeknya itu hanya di subbabnya elektrolisisnya saja gitu, itu kalau misalkan saya mau penelitian, apakah bisa dianggap sebagai STEAM atau enggak gitu? Karena hanya ada satu proyek aja gitu di subbab elektrolisis itu aja gitu, yaitu membuat membuat baterai dari bahan-bahan di sekitar gitu.
Yeah.
Itu gimana tuh Bu Yuli?
Okay, Rekha. So Budia would like to do the STEM project in the chemistry topics. So she would like to take the electrolysis topics because it is a part of the big topic. So the question is that okay to use only the small topic and assess it the emotional climate on that on that project?
If you want to do that's perfectly all right. When she was teaching electrolysis, how was the emotional climate? Because in research, everything is guided by your research question or your research aim. If you want to have an overall view of what happened for the whole year, then your question will be like that. But if you're only looking at emotional climate while you were teaching electrolysis, draft the question like that.
Okay.
While teaching electrolysis, it was clear. You felt cared. You felt consolidated. That's.
Jadi tergantung perumusan masalahnya. Jadi boleh. Jadi judulnya tuh udah emosi dalam lingkungan pembelajaran pada topik elektrolisis gitu. Jadi spesifik ke topik itu. Tapi kalau misalnya mau nilai selama ini Budia ngajarnya seperti apa, general. Semua mau ngajar elektrolisis, mau ngajar apa, sama aja gitu. Jadi nggak mesti STEM projectnya nggak mesti dibawa, nggak dibawa juga nggak apa-apa gitu. Jadi general aja lingkungan pembelajarannya. Gitu.
Tapi kalau misalkan saya mau nulisnya, maksudnya saya mau penelitian terbatas, fokusnya bukan di dalam satu bab gitu, hanya di KD itu aja, di kompetensi dasar yang berarti boleh gitu ya. Kemudian kalau misalkan kan gini, maksudnya saya tertarik nih mengaitkan antara si baterai, kemudian kan sekarang lagi yang up to date-nya itu, saya pengen mengaitkan yang up to date, berita yang up to date, isu-isu yang up to date tuh ke dalam kelas gitu. Karena kan kondisi lagi kondisi PJJ kayak gini, saya ingin itu menjadi salah satu penarik siswa untuk belajar gitu. Jadi saya ingin masukkan sih baterai kan sekarang di Indonesia itu kan lagi rame masalah nikel, kandungan nikel 30%, kemudian baterai mobil listrik, pabrik baterai mobil listrik, kemudian limbahnya gitu. Itu kalau misalkan saya kaitkan ke situ, kemudian dia ada project STEAM-nya juga, kemudian ke CEC-nya juga, itu kemarin saya udah diskusi sama Bu Ella, ini saya juga agak sedikit bingung nih. Jadi kayaknya saya mau ngaitin kayak gitu, apakah boleh atau terlalu melebar atau gimana, atau kurang fokus?
Boleh, jadi kan dua aspek nanti ada STEM project-nya, kemudian nanti ada STEM project-nya kan secara umum digambarkan aja, terus nanti membantu emotional climate enggak? emotional climate-nya dalam kondisi PJJ, ada project seperti itu, seperti apa. Bisa aja, nggak ada masalah. So she would like to engage the student as well during the electrolysis with the issue of the battery and then the issue of the environment, Rekha.
Yeah, perfectly.
Ya, nggak apa-apa, bagus. Lebih di atas rata-rata. Kalau kita kan maunya selesai nih ya. Share questionnaire dan
Boleh.
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 So the easiest one is just share the questionnaire. You reflect on the questionnaire, and then if you don't want to improve something, I mean, didn't give to at the end of the probably one month or anything, it can be only once you give them the questionnaire to get the perception of the students regarding your classroom. Jadi bisa aja Bapak Ibu cuma sekali aja nyebar, bisa aja 2 kali. Jadi tergantung judul pertanyaan penelitiannya kalau mau jadikan penelitian. Kalau mau dijadikan refleksi saja, nanti kan kita ketemu mereka refleksi saja, nggak apa-apa juga gitu.
Iya. Ya, makasih Bu Juli, Rekha, terima kasih banyak jawabannya.
Rekha can say terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Oke, Bu Juli, sedikit saya mau nanya nih sehubungan dengan pertanyaan Bu Dian tadi. Nah, berarti kalau kita mau simpelnya, tapi ini untuk PTK, kita cukup share questionnaire, kemudian ada perlakuan dulu untuk anak-anak, setelah itu di-share ulang.
Ya, ada perlakuan dulu. Misalnya Ibu, Bu Susi, ada bagian psikologi nggak untuk caring sama orang, namanya apa? Salah satu tindakannya misalnya approach-nya. Teori di counseling. Buat caring tuh pakai apa gitu? Pakai controlling behavior kah apa gitu misalnya.
Berarti itu menjadi judul.
Ya, menjadi judul. Jadi action apa yang Ibu lakukan itu jadi judul apa, Bu Susi?
Empati gitu
empati.
kali ya.
Misalnya Ibu punya, misalnya nih saya karena nggak paham psikologi ya, misalnya melakukan kontrol behavior melalui kontrol, memperbaiki emosi dalam lingkungan pembelajaran melalui kontrol behavior misalnya, atau melalui reward, kasih reward gitu.
Mana tuh Bu online begini Bu?
Gitu ya.
Gimana online begini tuh?
Ya misalnya dengan reward seperti itu. Nah nanti kita
ditinggiin.
Ya.
Transfer OVO.
Yang Ibu
yang Ibu bisa emotional support ya.
Nah, itu kayak gitu
emotional support. Tapi ininya yang dikasihkan ke siswa itu yang pertanyaan yang tadi di questionnaire.
Iya, yang sama juga. Jadi sebelum dan sesudah akan sama, itu aja yang dikasih.
Oh, walaupun satu item doang yang kita mau teliti.
Iya.
Emotional apa tadi Bu Susi?
Emotional support.
Emotional support. Atau di situ kan ada motivation juga ya.
Kita kan mau tahu, jangan-jangan dampaknya ternyata nanti kita bisa analisis dampaknya ternyata ke emosi, ke motivasi juga gitu.
Berarti emotional support ini masuk ke dalam judul ya?
Ya, seperti itu. Tapi Ibu nanti analisis dulu ya hasil awalnya. Jadi Ibu bisa merefleksikan kan dimensi mana nih sebenarnya yang kurang gitu.
Jadi cukup satu siklus.
Ya, 1 siklus nggak apa-apa, 2 siklus juga nggak apa-apa. Misalnya habis action mau apa lagi yang diimprove. So Rekha, they asking question like they reflect on the result of the first step of the questionnaire, and then they do something like emotional support and so on, and then they give another questionnaire. So it's like the classroom exercise.
You see, it depends how you're drafting your. This is pre-post study. And then action research. In that case, it becomes. Yeah, and that can easily be done.
Okay, Rekha, is it enough just for 1 month to give treatment for the student? After we give the first questionnaire, and then treatment only 3 or 4 weeks, is it enough?
Maybe 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Rekha.
Ya, jadi Bapak Ibu kita masih bisa, nanti kita komunikasikan lewat WhatsApp group kapan Bapak Ibu bisa selesai, tapi Bapak Ibu ini udah ready untuk doing something ya. Jadi silahkan Bapak Ibu kira-kira apa yang mau Bapak Ibu lakukan, nanti kita bisa ketemu lagi dengan Rekha setelah Bapak Ibu selesai gitu. Ada lagi any questions? Bu Susi ada tambahan?
No.
No?
That's enough.
Rekha,
That's enough.
anything?
We'll have one more session and
Yeah. We will meet again after they do data collection, Rekha, and then reflect on their teaching practice.
Yeah.
So oh ya Bapak Ibu ada form evaluasinya nanti di WhatsApp grup juga ada. Setelah ini kami akan berikan sertifikat juga untuk 2 pertemuan yang kemarin ya. Jadi mohon diisi evaluasinya. Setelah itu nanti akan dikabari lagi, silahkan bergabung dengan WhatsApp grup, bisa kontak saya, Bu Ana, atau ada Cucu juga di sini untuk bisa di-add kalau belum masuk. Bapak Ibu bisa nanti di-share lagi ya evaluasinya ya Bapak Ibu, mohon bantuannya untuk diisi. Oke, kemudian bisa di open kameranya, we need to take a picture, Rekha.
Untuk yang evaluasinya mungkin ini masih session 1.
Oh iya, nggak apa-apa. Session dinilai aja karena ini kan dia aja Cu, semuanya acara ini aja, nggak usah session. Cucu bisa take a picture?
Yes, Bu.
Oke, bisa counting.
Oke. Bapak Ibu dimohon untuk membuka kamera.
Open kamera and open mic.
Oke, 3, 2, 1. Again ya Bapak Ibu, slide 1. 3, 2, 1. Slide yang kedua.
They don't know which slides we are.
Dan Bu.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Rekha. Take care and see you again the next 2 months or 1 month. Yeah.
It was pleasure.